All right, welcome back to the channel. So Adrien Broner is back in camp, and the rumor is he's going to be looking to fight either one or two people, either Regis Prograis or Amir Khan. He better choose the right one. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So we're going to talk about Adrien Broner and whether he's going to fight Regis Prograis or Amir Khan, which one he should fight. I'm telling you right now, I'm a forever Adrien Broner fan, man. I think this dude, even though he has not necessarily accomplished what everybody thought he would accomplish early in his career, there are some real things in the boxing ring that Adrien Broner can be proud of. And an example I think I wish other fighters would follow, which is that Adrien Broner is a guy that is always willing to fight. He's willing to fight pretty much anyone. He always gives you a good fight, even if he doesn't pull it out. And so even though, he does a lot of talking before the fight, he always gives you, the event always gives you your money's worth when it actually happens. And that's not something a lot of these fighters are doing. They're pretty much, going the opposite way. But before I get into the meat of that and talk about the fight that he could be having coming up, please make sure, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Like the video, share the video. It goes a long way towards helping the channel grow, and it would be greatly appreciated. So Ellie Sethpak put some video up the other day of Adrien Broner when he, back in camp. Adrien Broner I don't know if and when Adrien Broner is going to retire. I don't know if it's a money issue or whatever it is, but I think Adrien Broner is probably going to be in boxing for, a little while, probably have like 2 or 3 more fights that he spreads out. All of his fights are always going to be attractions because it's Adrien Broner, and he really has the cult of personality. It's been a lot of years since anybody has taken Adrien Broner seriously as a top-notch fighter, but he still winds up getting big fights. And in some of the fights that he gets, he actually, even though he loses, I think he does a fairly decent job of making the fight competitive. But now we're entering into a time frame where there may be some trouble coming from it, especially depending on who he picks in the next fight. So I'm hearing it's either Regis Prograis or Amir Khan. In the case that it's an Amir Khan fight, I say great. Make the fight. That is something I would be interested to see. It's a secondary fight. It's not anything where, I probably would be at welterweight. I doubt very much that Adrien Broner can get down to 140 pounds. It would just be a fight between guys that used to be at the top of the division, and you kind of see what happens between them. I think it's a step up from an Amir Khan Kell Brook fight, where because Kell Brook probably just doesn't need to be in a boxing ring anymore with those two with 2 broken orbital bones and the surgeries that he had on that. So I think it would I wouldn't say it'd be like an exhibition fight, but it's one that really doesn't matter. But at the same time, you get to see 2 personalities, and you get to see a decent fight that will probably be matched up very fairly. And I think that would be an opportunity for Adrien Broner to get a win. I think he has the ability to beat Amir Khan because, if he connects on Amir Khan, what's going to happen to Amir Khan. Amir Khan is going to go stanky legged on him. But at the same time, Amir Khan's got fast hands. He's a decent boxer. He'll move around, and he's got a chance to win the fight. Also, seeing that it's not the best fight in the world. However, considering what we're getting in boxing, with all this other nonsense that's going on with Evander Holyfield versus Belfort, you've got Riddick Bowe fighting Lamar Odom. I'm grouping in there the Logan Paul and Jake Paul and all that nonsense. This fight will bring better. It's a better quality fight, and will bring be a more meaningful fight than any of those. So kind of feel like, all right, man, I could go for that one. Now, if Regis Prograis if Adrien Broner on the other hand fights Regis Prograis, that's when I think you're getting into there being some real serious problem with something can happen in that ring with Adrien Broner. I don't think Adrien Broner is anywhere near his career. His life outside the ring is definitely taking a toll on him, and his abilities, and just the amount of time he's been fighting. He's not a young guy; he's an older guy now. to get into the ring with somebody like Regis Prograis. I think Regis Prograis and the fighting style that Regis Prograis has, I think would absolutely positively be disastrous for Adrien Broner. It might actually be the first time that you see Adrien Broner stopped in a fight. Regis Prograis is somebody that is a come forward fighter. He's a very, very strong fighter. He has good power in both hands and definitely has the ability to stop people. You can look at the fight that he had with Josh Taylor when he went over to Scotland to fight Josh Taylor. Even though he lost that fight, he definitely put some work on Josh Taylor, swole his eye up. And, he's the type of guy, especially with a guy like Adrien Broner, who really is not that active and likes to pot shot and counterpunch. He's somebody I think that might really, really put a hurting on Adrien Broner. And honestly, man, I don't want to see that. What I'd prefer for Adrien Broner is something that I think that he actually deserves and not a lot of other fighters deserve. And I've been calling for a while, which is just an easy fight. You know what I mean? Adrien Broner just versus somebody that you know that he can beat. Somebody that is just, scout out the fight, let the guy have a good fight and get a couple good fights underneath his belts. Adrien Broner has fought, and maybe not the last guy, but guys before that, it was just fight after fight after fight after really competitive fight for him. And I don't think he's ever really gotten a chance pretty much since the Marcus Maidana fight, with the exception of the Ashley Theophane fight, to really get his confidence back, and believe in himself. But, at this point in time, it might be too far gone for Adrien. But regardless, I'm going to be a fan of the guy because of the fact that he's willing to fight everybody else. And there's not a lot of fighters in boxing that are doing that now. Errol Spence Jr. is doing that, and he's doing that, while he's winning and but he's competing against the best. You see him wanting to compete against the best. You see a guy like Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford actually had to get forced to fight Sean Porter. Even though I won a $50 bet on and knew that fight was going to happen once it was ordered, and I was very happy about it. And I'm going to give Terence Crawford a lot of credit for what he, for whatever happens in the ring. The fact of the matter is, though, that Terence Crawford did get forced into having to make that fight. There may be some barriers to him making fights with the PBC that are legitimate because he's with Top Rank. But if you just listen to his attitude, I don't want to say he's selective about who he wants to fight. He's very conscious about the risk and the risk-reward factor in fights, just like everybody else is being. But nowhere is it more prevalent in what's going on in that lightweight division, where it's like you got a bunch of good fighters that are all talking about each other, but nobody wants to fight each other. Ryan Garcia just got ordered to fight Jojo Diaz, and I don't know if that fight is actually going to get made, because Oscar De La Hoya may feel like that's, too dangerous of a fight for Ryan Garcia in his first fight back. Probably will pull him out of the fight, pull him out of the WBC rankings not to fight Jojo Diaz, right? Definitely not fighting Devin Haney. Teofimo Lopez is being, Tia Donna, being prima donna Teofimo Lopez. And I wish that these guys would be like Adrien Broner, be like Errol Spence Jr., and just willing to get in there and fight. But they're not. So that's why I think, I'm always excited about an Adrien Broner fight. Because, obviously the talking he does beforehand, but also I just really like the spirit of the guy and the fact that he's willing to fight anybody. Now, again, I'm leaning heavily towards a guy like Amir Khan and not Regis Prograis. I don't know. I know that Adrien Broner will fight guys, but I think in that particular instance, I don't think he's going to take that bait. But anyway, that's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.